On December 3rd, 2024, the president of South Korea declared martial law. Military troops surrounded the National Assembly. Soldiers blocked the doors, and for a few terrifying hours, democracy in one of Asia's most stable nations hung by a thread. But here's what's remarkable. The moment martial law was declared, people didn't cower in fear. They didn't wait to see what would happen next. They simply refused to accept it. Within hours, ordinary citizens flooded the streets, forming an unstoppable wave of defiance that the military couldn't contain. Now, most of us will never face martial law, but every single day we follow rules that we don't agree with. We stay silent when we should speak up. We conform when we should resist. And today I'm going to show you exactly why we do this and how to break free. I'm Vincent, and me and my family left conventional life to start a homestead up in the north of Sweden. If you're interested in seeing how that goes, you can follow us on our other YouTube channel, Northern Family Homestead. We broke a lot of rules to get here. Rules about what success looks like, about how you should live, what's normal, and I've learned something important. Most rules aren't laws. They're just expectations, and expectations only have power if you give it to them. Yeah. Got it. It's minus 20 degrees outside. I don't know how flies are still getting in the house. But breaking free isn't easy, because conformity isn't just social pressure, it's hardwired into our brains. Let me show you what I mean. In 1951, a psychologist named Solomon Asch conducted one of the most disturbing experiments in social psychology. He wanted to answer a simple question. Would people deny the evidence of their own eyes just to fit in with a group? Here's how it worked.
The experiment you'll be taking part in today involves the perception of lengths of lines. As you can see here, I have a number of cards, and on each card there are several lines. Your task is a very simple one. You're to look at the line on the left and determine which of the three lines on the right is equal to it in length. All right, we'll proceed in this order. You'll give your answer.
Only one of the people in the group is a real subject, the fifth person with the white t-shirt. The others are confederates of the experimenter and have been told to give wrong answers on some of the trials. The experiment begins uneventfully as subjects give their judgments.
Two.
The task was simple. Which line on the second card matched the length of the line on the first card? The answer was obvious. A 5-year-old could get this right.
But on the third trial, something happens.
Two.
The subject denies the evidence of his own eyes and yields to group influence.
75% of participants conformed at least once. They gave an answer they knew was wrong just to match the group. And overall, people conformed to the incorrect majority 37% of the time. Think about that. More than 1/3 of the time, people denied objective reality just to avoid standing out. This wasn't about complicated moral questions or political opinions. This was about the length of a line. And still, the pressure to conform was overwhelming. After the experiment, Asch interviewed the participants. Some said they genuinely started to doubt their own perception. Others knew they were right, but didn't want to be the odd one out. One participant said, "I didn't want to spoil the results." But here's what's really important. When Asch introduced just one other person who gave the correct answer, one ally in the room, conformity dropped to just 5%. One person, that's all it took. One person willing to break from the group gave others permission to trust their own judgment. Now you might be thinking, that was 1951. We're more independent now. We wouldn't fall for that. But the truth is, we're facing more conformity pressure than ever before. Not in laboratories, but in our daily lives. Let me show you what I mean. Because the Asch experiment isn't just history. It's happening right now, all around us. And the consequences are far more serious than getting the length of a line wrong. Let's go back to South Korea, December 2024.
The South Korean president declaring martial law in a late-night TV address.
He claimed it was necessary to protect the nation from anti-state forces. Within minutes, military troops were deployed, helicopters circled the National Assembly, soldiers in full combat gear blocked the entrances. This is the moment where conformity becomes dangerous, because in that moment, every soldier, every police officer, every government official had a choice: obey the order or question it. However, the unexpected happened. Enough people chose to question it. Citizens poured into the streets. Lawmakers climbed over fences and through windows to reach the assembly chamber. Parliamentary aides formed human barricades to protect the building, and within 6 hours the National Assembly voted 190-0 to overturn martial law. By 4:30 a.m. it was over. Not because the president changed his mind, not because the military suddenly developed a conscience, but because enough ordinary people refused to conform to an unjust order. But conformity doesn't always look like martial law. Sometimes it's quieter, more insidious. Let me give you another example. In 2017, researchers surveyed over 3,000 college students across America. They asked a simple question: have you ever stayed silent in class even though you disagreed with something being taught because you were afraid of how others would react? 60% said yes. More than half of college students, people supposedly at the peak of their intellectual freedom, were self-censoring because of social pressure. But it gets worse. When asked if they thought professors would penalize them for expressing unpopular views, 30% said yes. And among conservative students, that number jumped to 50%. Think about what this means. Universities, institutions supposedly dedicated to free inquiry and debate, have become places where students are afraid to speak their minds, not because of formal rules, but because of informal pressure. The Asch experiment playing out in each and every classroom. And the cost isn't just personal discomfort. When people stop questioning, stop debating, stop challenging ideas, that's when bad ideas go unchecked. That's when groupthink takes over. That's when societies make catastrophic mistakes. So here's the question. If conformity is hardwired into us, if the pressure is this strong, how do we break free? How do we become the person who gives the correct answer when everybody else is wrong? The answer comes from an unlikely source: ancient philosophy, specifically Stoicism. Because 2,000 years ago, Roman philosophers were asking the same question, and they found answers that still work today. The Stoics had a concept called the dichotomy of control. It's simple. Some things are within your control and some things aren't. And wisdom means knowing the difference. You can't control what other people think of you. You can't control whether they approve or disapprove. You can't control whether you fit in. Those things are outside your control. But you can control your own thoughts, your own choices, your own integrity, and that's where your power lies. Marcus Aurelius, who was literally the emperor of Rome, wrote this in his private journal: "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." He also wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Simple, clear, no exceptions for social pressure or career advancement or fitting in. But the Stoics weren't naive. They knew that standing alone is hard, so they developed practical techniques. Let me give you 3 that you can use today. First, premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Before you walk into a situation where you might face pressure to conform, imagine the worst that could happen. What if everyone disagrees with you? What if they laugh? What if you lose friends? By imagining these outcomes in advance, you rob them of their power. You realize, I can survive this. I've already lived through it in my mind. And suddenly, the fear loses its grip. Second, the view from above. The Stoics would imagine themselves looking down at their situation from a great height, like a bird flying over a city. From that perspective, your immediate social drama looks tiny, insignificant. In 100 years, will it matter that you disagreed with your coworker in a meeting? That you didn't laugh at a joke you found offensive? That you chose a different path? No. But your integrity, that matters. Your self-respect, that matters. And third, find your allies. Remember the Asch experiment? When just one other person gave the correct answer, conformity dropped to 5%. You don't need to convince everyone. You just need to find one person to see what you see. Epictetus, who was born a slave and became one of history's greatest philosophers, said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." That's the price of independence, and it's worth paying. When my family decided to leave conventional life and start homesteading, some people thought we were crazy. You're throwing away your careers. Your kids need stability. What about retirement? You can't live in a caravan for that long. The pressure to conform can be intense. But we asked ourselves, whose life are we living? Ours, or the one everyone around us expects us to live? And once you frame it that way, the choice is clear. Now, I'm not saying that everybody should become a homesteader. Your path will be different from mine. But I'm saying this: you have one life, one experience, one chance to live according to your own values. And every day you spend conforming to expectations you don't believe in is a day you can't get back. So here's my challenge to you. Think of one area in your life where you are conforming against your better judgment. Maybe it's a career path you don't believe in. Maybe it's staying silent when you should speak up. Maybe it's pretending to agree with people you fundamentally disagree with. Pick one, just one, and this week break the pattern. Give the correct answer. Be the person who climbs the fence. Be the ally who makes it easier for others to break free. Because conformity only has power if we give it power. And the moment you stop giving it power, you become free.